because we got to learn some lessons moving forward here. Very important to learn, right? Not repeat the same stuff. Definition of insanity. This referee storyline heading into this game had a lot of Cowboy fans freaking out. John Hussey, Philadelphia, has a 7-0 record and is unbeaten with Hussey refereeing. Their past 2 games involving him, only 6 penalties against Philly, opponents with 21 penalties. So the fix was in. The Dallas Cowboys were going to get screwed by the Stripes last night in Arlington. It obviously did not happen. And if anything, if we're being honest, we got to be honest, I thought Philly got the short end of the calls overall throughout the evening.
Oh, what a hater.
Now, maybe this storyline forced John Hussey psychologically to go the other way and try to balance things out a little bit. But I was tracking this just in case. Just in case. This is going to be a humongous topic today and the Cowboys got screwed. I wrote down all the different calls. There were 8 flags, by the way, in the first quarter. This was a beating early on.
They got to stop.
17 total penalties. For the game, Philly got called 10 flags for 95 yards. Cowboys 7 for 60. It was a flag fest in the first quarter. The Tyler Smith hold on the CeeDee Lamb touchdown that got picked up.
Yeah.
Was that a hold? Did the Cowboys get away with one? We're going to referee review right here on the show.
They probably got away with one on that one. Yeah, I mean, his hands were clutched inside his shoulder pads.
It could have been called a hold.
And that was on the CD touchdown. So they had flagged, I thought they had flagged Tyron for that one, not Tyler.
It was Tyler.
It was Tyler?
Yep.
Okay. Because I remember Tyron is the one that looked like it was a ticky-tack, and he got by. Tyler was closer, even though I thought that was on time. Tyler was closer, but I didn't think, like, technically, there's so many little technicalities about holding penalties in the league about, like, well, are you turning them, or is your hand inside here? I thought it was close enough that if you threw it, you probably should just commit to it at that point, but I don't hate that they picked it up.
Well, we don't hate that.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like,
as
as a ruling, I don't hate that they say that's not a hold.
It just makes it sketchier when they pick it up.
Yes.
I don't like that.
I thought they said on the broadcast that it was within the parameters of the technicality of the rules.
Well, and a lot of times that's what it is. It's somebody throws a flag, and the person who threw the flag still believes it. And somebody above them goes, that doesn't, and they have to correct him and say, nope, I'm pulling rank, that's wrong.
So that benefited Dallas. The 3rd and 17, Darius Slay on Michael Gallup, that was a horrible call. Philadelphia got on Darius. Don't call me by my first name, Mike Tirico. Little baby. And I've defended big play Slay against Bobby for 2 years, and I've turned. Because don't call me Darius. He was serious? Shut up.
You've turned, unlike Michael Gallup was able to because Darius Slay was holding him.
No, that was a bad call. 3rd and 17, that's a humongous call. Philly benefited.
That was good, yeah. No, I know the one you're talking about. That was just, it makes it look so much worse when you slow it down. Like when they slow down and it looks like, oh, there's an aggressive. When you watch it in real time, there's no interference there.
There was not. It was a big play. Then it was a weak call on Tyler Smith. I thought the Cowboys got slightly screwed. No late hit with Jalen Hurts sliding. Marquise Bell came in, and Tirico's like, ooh, I understand why Philly's a little worked up. That definitely could have been called for 15 yards.
I was certain they were going to throw a flag. They didn't, and when I watched it back, watching it live, it looked bad. When I watched it back, I was like, okay, I think I see what they were probably seeing, but it's the first time I've ever seen them give the benefit of the doubt on that. They never do.
Right.
They usually give it to the offense.
Which, by the way, I do want to say, I don't know if it came
Cowboys benefited.
Yeah.
I don't know if it came across this way on TV. It felt to me like the coaching point to the defense yesterday was, if he's going to make himself a runner, you make sure you hit him like a runner. Like, it looked like they were trying to hit Hurts hard every time he declared himself as a runner.
CeeDee, this has been another point of emphasis, and I hate this. I wish in football, when you go out of bounds, the clock stops, period. I hate the forward progress versus not going forward. CeeDee Lamb, in my opinion, his forward progress was stopped. This is before the half on that drive. He went backwards and out of bounds. They gave the Cowboys the clock stoppage.
Yeah, it was ever so slightly backwards, but I thought it was backwards. It's an impossible angle for the referee to see because he's behind him, so it's hard to tell if he's actually coming towards you or not. But yeah, I thought that one was a benefit to the Cowboys.
Benefit to the Cowboys. Then on the Gallup touchdown, they picked up another flag. Hussey picked up another flag on the Gallup touchdown. And what about the 2-for-1 face mask on that drive, too? This was the turning point. This was, RJ and I agreed, this is the moment the game basically ended, 24-6 going into the half. You got 2 minutes to drive. The 2-for-1 face mask, so, and there was even, I've never heard of this. So, 10 yards plus 15 yards?
It's the penalty. It's like right.
Interference plus a face mask?
It's the interference, so it's spot of the foul.
But it was for one call. It was for the face mask.
Yeah. So spot of the foul.
Yeah.
The face mask was the pass interference too.
Right.
The same thing.
Right.
So you get a face
mask. And I thought
mask,
you always got to choose like the longer yardage.
But I think when both are not personal, when one of them's a personal foul, they both get added on to each other, so you get the spot foul.
Because normally they always go 2 infractions on the defense. Yeah. This one declined. They take that one. So instead of 15, we got 25 yards of penalty yardage.
So I guess when the personal foul's on the same play at the same guy, it's double.
And I'm not saying the referee screwed that up. It benefited the Cowboys on something I've never heard before.
Yeah. I mean, look, that was one where, and I was confused by it at first. I was trying to figure out, okay, is it, I think Chop's right. I think it's because it's a personal foul, they can't even give an option, but it's like it's basically 2 penalties that you can't decline. Like a pass interference is one that it went further than pass, that's penalty, it's there, and then the face mask. But I've never heard of them comboing them ever.
And then finally, this is John Hussey, Cowboy fans convinced that the fix was in. Philly was going to get all the calls. The Tyler Biotish clip. Now the NBC rules official said that was a bad call against Dallas. Yeah. It should not have gone against Biotish.
It is.
And then Cooks Bradbury in the end zone was not called. I thought Bradbury clearly made contact early with Cooks. They did not call this because I think the game was out of hand. That should have gone Dallas's favor. And then the left guard offsides call on the tush push. Philly got screwed there. Now they ended up getting the first down, but I was like, I don't see anybody offsides or jumping here. They enacted the Kadarius Toney penalty on the Eagles' offensive line on the tush push. I saw nothing.
Only the offensive line doesn't get to look at the line judge to find out. Yeah, I mean, look, it was not a clean game by the officials. The referees have stunk all year, though. This is no surprise. They have been bad all year, but the narrative that Hussey was going to just be all in the bag for Philadelphia turned out to be false.
Like, that's built-in excuse making. If something went wrong last night, if the Cowboys went wrong, then fans can go back and they can go, look, told you, 7-0 now 8-0. You think that's just a coincidence? You build it in and you save it.
It's time for Dallas Cowboys Thank You Notes. 877-881-1053 in the truckwreck.com text line. Or if you want to get involved on the Twitch and the YouTube, love to hear from you guys. I think Michael Gallup is a great example of somebody who fits in Dallas Cowboys Thank You Notes. There's a whole lot of people you could shout out. I wanted to shout out Tony Pollard. We've talked about how he looked faster, but that 4th and 2 conversion with 3 minutes to go in the first quarter was huge because it felt like the Cowboys were rocking and rolling on offense. And if they would have had to settle for a field goal, obviously Brandon Aubrey can kick a field goal from 85 yards, it feels like. But if they would have had to settle for a field goal or they would have got stuffed and not gotten any points out of it, I feel like, I don't know if that would have changed the entire game, but it might have changed part of the trajectory of the game. I thought that was a big-time run, big-time conversion right there.
I think in my notes I wrote, I don't know that that's the play that I would have called on that conversion specifically because I thought it kind of looked all wild and everything, but it worked out. And that was all that really mattered was that it worked out in the end on that. But yeah, man, I thought Tony Pollard, he ran tough. He had a gritty style last night. But then whenever he was able to get through, he was able to extend the play and get bigger yardage out of it. And that's something that has been missing, whether or not it was the blocking up front or just Tony Pollard getting clipped, one hand right there on his foot. He just looked like he was in a better form. And I think we have to be just very honest sometimes. Sometimes these players that are humans just have to recover. And have a real full recovery. And he looks like, I know it's kind of like Nathan Eovaldi doing his rehab stint in the professionals in MLB instead of going to the minor leagues. And Tony Pollard was finishing up his stuff, and it looks cleaner and stronger right now. I will add the combination of him and Dowdle when Dowdle went down for a spell last night, I was like, no. This isn't something that can happen. Dowdle's got to be there. That combination of those two running backs is exceptional right now. I really like what they're doing.
Can I throw out a play that I thought was really impressive and ended up not mattering as much?
Yeah.
Thank you note to DeMarcus Lawrence for completely getting rid of a run option that should have forced a punt. Now, I realize the ensuing punt ended up being the fake. They got the first down. So it didn't end up being as impactful, but I thought in that moment that was a hugely important play, and I thought it was a great play by DeMarcus Lawrence to set the tone really early in the game.
Yeah, I think that he's gonna have a relatively every week. DeMarcus Lawrence is gonna have a relatively underwhelming performance, like in the stat sheet and all that stuff. But when you watch the game, you're like, oh my gosh, he did that again, or he was right there. He forced this. He's always around things, and he doesn't. I know Kevin for a long time it was what his contract says he should be this.
Yeah.
And if you look at this team now, you're happy you have that dude under whatever contract it is. He's a good leader for the team, but he makes these plays in the run game or in these other moments where you're very happy that you have a DeMarcus Lawrence out on the field. And that's one of those guys, Kevin, where we're looking at this by season's end. You're looking at like a Tyron, Zach Martin, Dak Prescott, DeMarcus Lawrence. That group right there is kind of the group where you're just like, you kind of want them to win it for those guys, with everything that they've gone through.
I agree with all of that. Stephon Gilmore.
Thank you.
Deserves so many thank yous. I'm going to just focus on two right here. Is Stephon Gilmore for making an open field 4th down tackle on Devontae Smith. I realize, and we're going to get to stripping A.J. Brown in just a second, but it's tough to make an open field tackle in general. It is tougher for defensive backs to make open field tackles. And that's something that the Eagles were like, hey, we're going underneath, and we're going to depend on Devontae Smith to get the yardage himself. He had space. It was just him and Stephon Gilmore. Stephon Gilmore stopped him. 4th down, game over. And that was a huge play. And then obviously, Nick Sirianni said at halftime, and I think he's right. It was 24-6. The Eagles get the ball. If they go on a drive and score, that could change the game. And I think he's absolutely right about that. But what happened? Stephon Gilmore stripped A.J. Brown. Those are two ginormous plays in the span of the second half that helped define this victory for the Cowboys.
Yeah, man. He was all over whichever receiver he was lined up against throughout the entire night. And a lot of it was the A.J. Brown moments where you're like, this is great. A lot of people have been talking about the old man thing was all it really took. And hey, man, if that's what it is, somebody please call Stephon Gilmore out again. I would really appreciate it because I love that version of him.
Could we float that out? That like, hey, Stephon, did you hear that so-and-so
Stephon Diggs called you old.
Yeah.
He told his brother Trayvon that you're an old man.
He tweeted it out.
Yeah, he tweeted it. He said, I know I'm not on the field on 3rd downs a lot of times. Who knows why? But hey, you're an old man. You can't cover me.
Right.
Maybe that could be the case.
I think we could.
Do you think he reaches over and taps Trayvon on the shoulder and is like, hey, what do I do? How do I get in your brother's head for this game?
Oh, yeah.
And is it
absolutely,
dude,
I do.
That might be a topic. That's a moral compass topic right now. Is it your teammate duty to tell your brother's weaknesses?
For sure it is. Because do you disagree? We're not playing.
Is that a topic on itself right there? Or we should wait till later on this one? Because
Probably.
You can answer. Go ahead and answer right now.
I was just going to say, but I would also help out if you were saying, how do we plan the best Christmas gift for Stephon?
Yeah.
So see, I would help out with that. But Stephon Diggs ain't on your team, right? Like, you do not need to be attached if he wins a Super Bowl over you. If you're eliminated, by all means, all the support in the world, you need to win this game. If the Cowboys continue to win, their path through the playoffs could be significantly easier. So, hell yeah.
I am very sad that we don't get the Diggs action.
For sure.
And I know it's been a long time, and I didn't even think about it until this week now. But I am pretty sad that we don't get that combination out there.
I think it would be great and be like, hey, you're lining up and the ball's in the air, and he's like, hey, what happened at your 3rd grade birthday? What the hell?
And he's just like, oh my gosh.
Exactly.
I couldn't slaughter my pig.
What happened at sleepaway camp? And so, just something to get I don't know, is something to get an advantage in those instances with a psychological battle.
Yeah.
I think that's completely fine. But I also think we can pick that back up as the week goes along. Tip of the cap to Aubrey. Tip of the cap to Gilmore. Dak, the offensive line. That's an interesting one I want to get back to. And Parsons. I'm not saying that the offensive line was perfect by any means, but if you judge offensive line from the last Philly game versus offensive line last night, don't you feel like they played significantly better? Not perfect or anything like that, or even great, but significantly better.
Cowboys offensive line?
Philly game versus Philly game.
I'm still having some trouble with Steele.
Fair.
Steele had a bad stretch. Biotic had a bad two moments, right?
You think he got jobbed with that clipping penalty?
I do, and that's why he was cussing. I don't know if you could see it. He was saying words. He was saying choice words. But I really did feel like that was a bad moment. It wasn't his brightest moment there. But I thought he was really good throughout the game. I guess I really want to give, but I still need Terrence Steele. He had a couple moments in that game that I was just like, what's going on, man? Like, is it something that you're not comfortable with? What's happening here? And Duke Manyweather kind of had a conversation on Twitter. He said, look, they're asking him to do some stuff that he's not used to and stuff that he disagrees with at the position.
Okay.
And it has a lot to do with reaching and using his arm and stuff like that. And I'm going to kind of check in on more of that stuff.
Okay.
But I need Steele to be better. Tyron looked really good too, but he had a moment too where this thing that Manyweather was talking about popped up. So I'm kind of curious how that goes. I want to give 2 though. I want to give 2 thank you letters, or tip of caps, if we will. One to Dan Quinn for seeing what San Francisco had done to the Eagles and saying, we're going to do something similar to it.
Right.
We're going to do it our way, but we're going to do something similar to it. And then as Mike McCarthy had pointed out, first trimester, they had pointed out, not a lot of forced fumbles. So let's start trying to force some fumbles. And here they are in the 3rd trimester forcing fumbles. So good job, Dan Quinn, coming up with a really good game plan that held the offense touchdownless. Good job, man.
Yes.
That's something you can hang your hat on for sure. And then on the flip side, I would like to thank Mike McCarthy for teaching Dak how to play quarterback at the highest level. Right? And I know some people think that Dak Prescott just walked into the league like this. Dak has a lot of great skills. There are some things that I think even Dak Prescott can say, I learned that too, and that added to what I can do. I now have a bigger toolbox, and I'm better because of it. But I thought McCarthy called a really good game. Early on, the way they started that game, I really liked the play calling of Mike McCarthy. I thought it was aggressive, and I'm really loving the way that this team plays at home, and it has a lot to do with the way he calls plays in Dallas or in Arlington.
Can we throw Al Harris in the mix too?
Dude, I love me some Al Harris.
Yeah.
Man. I've been trying to get him on the show for years, and the Cowboys are always like, well, what about this? And I'm like, no, I want Al. But the way he's coached the secondary is just phenomenal. I don't know how much Bland has gained from him, but all the things that Al Harris is doing just seem to be on point. And I love that McCarthy was like, I know this guy. He knows what I'm trying to accomplish with the team overall, and so I need to hire him to be in this role.
Once again, Brandon Aubrey for being the best at kicking field goals. Now 30 for 30. He's the 3rd rookie in NFL history to make a 60-plus yard field goal, and the first kicker ever to make 2 field goals of 59 yards or more in the same game. It's incredible that he kicked a 60-yard field goal, then a 59-yard field goal. Obviously, he also kicked 2 more field goals, but just incredible, incredible, incredible. And then, Corey, you brought this up earlier. Thank you note to the offense in the 2-minute drill. There's a minute 48 left in the first half. The Cowboys move 75 yards in 8 plays. We'll get more to one specific aspect of that in a second. And then they only leave 20 seconds on the clock. Yeah. So they operated this just beautifully. And part of that was the double penalty. And thank you to Cooks for still making the catch when there was also a double penalty. that got enforced. And I'm telling you this, you even take out the penalty, the way the Cowboys offense was moving the ball, give them 20 seconds. They would have gotten the rest of that yardage anyway. I firmly believe that.
Do have some good tweets about this game, including John Machota. Usually just sticks to the facts. He offered this opinion as he left a vacant AT&T Stadium last night. Tonight was one of the best games I've seen the Cowboys play in this place. It was a complete beatdown, wasn't it, for the defense to do that to their offense and for your offense other than the field goals. What do you say about that, Brian? How does that one compare for you?
Well, I'll tell you what, it was, going into the game, I thought it was going to be a little Seattle-like, back and forth. And I think, though, the Cowboys defensively, what I think saved that game for them last night was their ability to turn over the Eagles after the Eagles made chunk plays. I mean, those were big runs. Like, when you look at Hurts, that was a big run. They had a chance. They're knocking on the door. You turn them over right there. The slant route that Gilmore's able to rip the ball out of Brown's hands. That was huge right there. They made some plays. It was like some bad things happened to you, but you didn't allow it to go forward. You
hung tough.
You hung tough, and the Smith breaks 2 tackles on the way towards the end zone there, and great job by Bell and those guys coming from behind, knocking the ball. Was it Bell or Wilson? I'm trying to think of
that one was Bell. I think.
Bell, yeah.
Wilson had the one on Hurts.
On the Hurts, yeah. Sorry, but yeah, it was, to me, that could have been a lot different game if you don't find a way to turn them over after they made those chunk plays.
Yeah, because A.J. Brown, Stephon Gilmore had obviously an awesome game. Like, he showed up big in big moments, but A.J. Brown had his own moments too. Like, he had some chunk plays.
A.J. Brown dropped a ball on
the curse
one that was, and very similar to what happened to CeeDee Lamb dropping a ball too.
Yeah,
in the start of the second half.
Oh yeah,
that could have changed fortunes for the Cowboys as well. But yeah, I think defensively, Dallas did what they had to do. Philadelphia ran the ball okay in that game.
It's like they were
6 points is incredible.
Oh, for sure. But it seemed like they were just completely okay with Jalen Hurts. If you want to take off and run a few times, we'll give you those because we know you're not going to keep doing it.
They schemed a couple of runs. They sent motion across and knew Dallas was playing man, and once they busted through the second level there, that was it was good. But those turnovers were the big difference in that football game.
Yeah, it'd have been really interesting to see what would have happened if on their opening drive they finish it and at least get a field goal or go in for a touchdown and stay within more striking distance. And then when they had the chance, after the fumble 6, Cowboys go back and score. At that moment, I'm thinking this thing could still get interesting.
It is. There was the time just was not going off the clock fast enough for me at that point in time. But I was just kind of like going, I know what Zach and I were talking about at halftime. I didn't feel like that Philadelphia could stop you defensively,
and they didn't.
They really did. In the second half, though, that Dallas got a little.
Well, the two previous opponents,
Mike lost a little rhythm calling plays.
I think so.
And
some penalties.
Dak was not. Yeah, it just wasn't.
So you're saying not a clean enough to be one of your best Cowboys games ever there?
I think the quarterback said they asked him about if it's one of the best, and he's going to be really hard on himself and all that. I think that when you look at, I think that the plays that they had to make, they were able to make. But there were some chunk plays
they left on the field
that Philadelphia made, and there were some chunk plays they left on the field. Yeah.
Well, Philly's nearly 50% on third down last night. They had 70 less
Dallas
yards.
Was even better. What was Dallas?
Dallas was great. They were 9 of 16.
Yep. Yeah.
They were dang near 60%. So, no, I think there's some things in there that could make you wonder, like, hey, if the turnovers weren't there, if they weren't on a horrible stretch, how would this game go if they rematched in the playoffs? That would be my question. And assume that it's in Philadelphia. How confident in a dub would you be?
I feel like I would be far more confident playing at Philadelphia now, knowing what I know about both teams and seeing both teams play. Even though like I say, there's things that if Philly to me just can't rush the passer. That's a problem.
Yeah.
That is a problem. That exposes everything that they do in the secondary. And Dallas's offensive line is good enough to pass protect. We saw it yesterday.
Yeah. Going back and rewatching the Eagles game leading up to this one, that was a game the Cowboys should have won. They forced 3 fumbles in that game just like they did in this one Eagles were the ball bounced their way. And then you had a bunch of self-inflicted wounds and penalties that cost you that game. So I think out of the 8 quarters, personally, outside of the first quarter in Philly in the first game, the Cowboys have won 7 of the 8 quarters.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's possible Philadelphia stumbles so hard that we're not even having that serious of a discussion. But at the same time, it would not surprise me if the Eagles sort of hit rock bottom here and rally from this point out either. Okay, standing by, Mike McCarthy press conference up there at the Ford Center. He'll be yakking at you here before too long, finishing up some important stuff here, I'm sure. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones said his biggest career disappointment. Yes, Brian?
Can I say something real quick? You're likely going to have your Hankins is going to miss a couple of games.
Okay.
So I reached out to some folks over there and I said, hey, couple games on 95, and my guys over there said likely. So
okay.
We're going to probably plan on. We'll see what Mike says here in the next few minutes, but it looks like that they're going to ask him the question about Hankins, and it's probably say, oh, we'll see day to day, but the diagnosis right now is probably going to miss a couple.
Hey, get him back for the playoffs. Same thing happened last year. He's a guy that can step back in and have an opportunity here for Mazio, as long as it's not longer than that. It's not a killer, man. They're on a great run with the injuries, but yeah, Jerry said, biggest disappointment not winning a Super Bowl with Tony so far in his career. He said he'd be equally disappointed if he doesn't get one with Dak. Quote, Dak is a player who's qualified in every way to have a Super Bowl in his career. And, I totally agree with that. I think Jerry's just spot on with that assessment. Now let's see if he goes ahead and eventually builds Dak a team that's capable of looking as good as right now with the 49ers look. That's what I'm asking of the front office here. Quit telling me how good Dak is. I know he's dang good. Okay. Now quit tying one arm behind his back because you want to manage the cap year to year and you want to split up the pie. Okay. Choose a year. That's the current model. That's the alpha. How do you win a Super Bowl? You choose a window and you drive hard through it.
Yeah, and I think there's some legit 100% evidence and merit to that. My biggest issue with the team has been some of that with the personnel, but for me, it's getting the right coach to put him in position to succeed. And we might be finding out, in real time that the Joneses have done enough with the roster and Dak is good enough when you couple it with an actual sort of new age, well-designed offense. This might be good enough. Maybe this whole time they've been team building, they've been doing it just fine. They draft their balls off so impressively that they really don't need the free agency. They just need an offensive coordinator who knows what the heck he's doing in 2023. And for the last 6+ weeks, it looks like he got one. So we might find out that the Joneses have been doing it exactly right. They've just been missing the boat on their offense and their coach. And finally, they got to figure it out.
I'm going to bring this up a little bit later on, so I don't want to spend too much time on it right here, but I think it's worth repeating. My number one question for Stephen Jones on Friday. We've been talking about this for 5 years, maybe 6. You had 4 offensive coordinators here that couldn't get it figured out. How important is whoever figured that out? Do you consider them, we cannot lose this guy? Because tons, not just a few, there's hundreds of bloggers, content creators, streamers that have been talking about this for a long time, and your supposed smart people paying attention didn't know, Steven. How did this happen, and how are you making sure it doesn't happen again?